Hi, this is Graham Yost, and I was the showrunner on Justified, and what else? I wrote a bunch of movies, including the bus movie Speed, and I worked on Band of Brothers, and now I'm in Berlin.
Justified was a huge success. 78 episodes over 6 seasons. What's the secret to keeping a show on air that long?
I think that there was a bunch of secrets. One is having a great writing staff. The other thing is just having, we had such rich source material with the character of Raylan Givens that had been created by Elmore Leonard. Having a really wonderful supportive studio and network in FX, so the studio is Sony. And then, having stars like Tim Oliphant and Walton Goggins and Joelle Carter, that allowed us to tell stories that we could change up enough that people would feel like they were getting something new every year, but not be such a big change that didn't feel like it was the same show.
You mentioned that in the pilots there was quite a big twist that you ultimately decided not to play along with. You changed the story quite a lot because of the talent that you had. Talk us through that and how it ultimately affected the entire show.
Well, in Elmore Leonard's novella, Fire in the Hole, at the end of the final confrontation between Raylan Givens and Boyd Crowder, his old friend and now nemesis, they pull guns and Raylan kills Boyd. And Boyd was played by Walton Goggins, and that was it. He was supposed to die at the end of the pilot, and Walton was just doing us a favor by being in the pilot, and then he wouldn't be in the show. And man, we just loved Walton and Tim working together. We loved the characters together. The network loved them together, and then the focus group, when they tested the show, said, "You sure you want to kill off that Boyd Crowder character?" And we all said, "No, we don't have to. We can keep him alive." It just took a couple little, reshoots, and on we went. But that gave us a place to go for 6 years. Was their relationship.
As you said, you've worked on Speed and other movies. There's increasingly a trend we've noticed, especially in the US, for cinematic talent moving across to TV. Do you think that's going to continue? And if so, how do you think it's going to sort of influence what is on television at the moment?
I hope it really doesn't continue because they're going to take jobs from me. So I've had enough of that nonsense. Listen, John Landgraf, who's the head of FX, said not so long ago, I think it was this past summer, he was quoted as saying, there are 400 shows on every year. That's just too many shows. And I don't think he's wrong. I don't think that the industry can sustain that number. I wouldn't say that's all driven by feature talent coming into television, but it's perhaps partly. But I think that will have to contract. I don't think all that many shows can survive. But we'll see. It's been fun to see these shows. It's fun to see David Fincher doing, that first season of House of Cards and being involved with that. But we'll see. I think that sometimes feature people come into television not realizing how hard a job it is, especially for actors who are used to doing a movie for a couple months and then being done, and then suddenly having to work, a big chunk of the year. But we'll see.
And do you think there's a danger of sort of the talent that is actually available? There is only a certain amount of talent out there. When you've got 400 dramas on screen, probably isn't enough talent to go around. How is that going to sort of work itself out? Are we going to see fewer dramas but better?
The thing is my actor friends would tell you there's a lot of great actors who just don't work that much, and now there are more jobs. It's, everyone's always searching for that male who's 25 to 35, 25 to 40, female, so there's always that quest, which is why casting directors, go all over the world now looking for talent, which I think is a good thing. It'll give more people more work, and that's not bad. I don't think we'll run out. I wonder, are there that many good writers? And yes, what happens often on those shows is they'll have a smaller writing staff. So there are fewer jobs on a particular show, which means that the writers who don't get hired on show B can get hired on show C.
We hear a lot about the impact of Netflix and on-demand services. They're giving more creative freedom to people such as yourselves. Is that something that you've noticed sort of over Justified's run?
On Justified, there were, we couldn't show frontal nudity and there were certain words we couldn't say, but they gave us a lot more freedom than you get on a network. The gold standard in that has always been HBO, where you can do almost anything. But HBO doesn't do that many shows, so for Netflix to come along and Hulu and Amazon and these other places where you do get more creative freedom, and not just in terms of censorship and things like that, but you can tell, maybe more provocative or interesting or differently structured shows. I think that's all good, and it's nice to have that. I'll say my own experience on FX was we had a tremendous amount of creative freedom.
You were on Justified for a long time, and now that's all finished. What's next on the books?
There's a couple things I'm working on. As generally I don't like to talk about things unless they're actually going to go on the air. But it's been a very busy time since Justified finished up. Pitching a few things. There's this new term in Hollywood, relatively new, called Godfather, where they'll bring in a more seasoned or experienced writer like myself to supervise a younger writer. That's what I did with Joe Weisberg on The Americans. And thank God he didn't need much help at all, because he was just right out of the box, just a brilliant writer. And just ready to be a showrunner right from the jump. So I'm doing some of that, and then, I've got a deal at Sony, so they'll want me to do something, and I hope I get another show on the air. It's sort of it's rare to get too many. Aren't that many showrunners who have had a good number of shows on the air. So we'll see what I get.